recording this intro after I had a little lie down because I feel like my anxiety was making me speak a little quickly, and so I wanted to take a little break and re-record my intro because I realized that I may have missed some information that is probably important to say when you're introducing yourself on a YouTube video. So welcome everybody. This is the Fibre Nerd podcast. My name is Allison Barnes and I am the indie dyer behind Allison Barnes Yarn, which is my hand dye yarn company. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada with my husband, my son, and my 3 cats, Wicket, Cricket, and Kennedy. Today is Monday, March 19th, 2018, and this is episode 13. Thanks so much for checking out my podcast. This podcast is mainly about knitting and hand-dyed yarn, but I also like to do sewing, crocheting, and spinning, and sometimes those crafts make an appearance in this podcast. So thanks again for coming to check me out if this is your first time, and thanks for coming back if you've seen me before. If you enjoy this podcast, please give me a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe. Everything you do, comments, all of that sort of thing helps me get my message out there to everybody. And what is my message? Yarn is fun. Have fun with yarn. And that's kind of goofy, but so am I. So I hope you're having a really good day. This video is going to be spliced into the start of my podcast, so please enjoy the rest of my podcast. And if I missed anything else, I'll probably make another thing to splice into the podcast because that's just how today's going. Enjoy the show. Things before we get into some knitting content, and the first thing I want to talk about is the sound quality on my videos. I have had a comment on my last video and another comment on a video a few episodes back about the volume of my videos being very quiet. So I have no problem hearing the playback on my own videos, but if you could leave me a comment below with how it sounds to you, if it's loud enough. I have tried making tweaks in the editing process by increasing my volume to 200%. And on this video, I fiddled with the volume on my iPad to see if that helps at all for those of you who may be having trouble hearing me. I know I'm not the loudest person to speak, and since there aren't a lot of people around me, I don't feel like raising my voice to speak in my videos. But please leave me a comment below if you can hear me or if you can't hear me, if you have tricks on how to get the best volume from the videos that you watch on YouTube. That would be much appreciated. Thank you. The other admin thing I would like to talk about is our Ravelry group. I have a Ravelry group called Allison Barnes Yarnies, and it is an all-encompassing group of people who are fans of my hand-dyed yarn company, Allison Barnes Yarn, as well as where you will find information about knit-alongs, crochet-alongs, spin-alongs, podcast information, and I have just recently added a buy-sell trade thread for Allison Barnes Yarn for anybody looking to buy, sell, or trade any of my hand-dyed yarn from their stash. So I think that's not all the admin. Then the other admin piece that has to do with the Ravelry group is for our KAL, our knit-along that is coming up, and it is starting in about 2 weeks time. It's going to start right after Easter, so April the 3rd till June the 3rd. I'm going to give you 2 months to knit this shawl. It's called the Sunshowers Shawl, and it is a pattern by Ines Sang, and she designed it using 2 skeins of my hand-dyed yarn. The colors she used are Hush and Tiptoe, and you do not have to use any Allison Barnes yarn for this knit-along. I just require that you knit this pattern. And if you go to Ines's Ravelry Inez's Ravelry store, you will find her pattern for sale there, and she may still have it on sale. So I would go check that out right away and go through your stash, find some yarn that you love, or make a purchase and get ready to cast on April 3rd. If you already have a pattern and you're itching to start, by all means, please cast on. Whips are allowed, double dipping is allowed, so please just have lots of fun, and I can't wait to see all of your shawls posted in the FO thread of my Ravelry group. Right now, the chatter thread is open, so if you want to start chatting about the shawl, please feel free. I'm checking in every day as I remember, and if you have any questions, you can leave questions there. You can leave a comment below, and I know Inez and I'm sorry Inez, I keep pronouncing your name incorrectly. Inez and I will be happy to help if you have any questions. So I'm going to talk more about Inez's shawl design in a little while, but I would love to get started on talking about some FOs, and one of those FOs is beside me here. This is a Jamie shawl that I finished knitting while I was on vacation with my family, and it's a beautiful pattern. It uses 3 skeins of yarn. I chose to use to knit the worsted weight pattern. You can also knit this pattern in DK weight, and the yarn that I used is my own hand-dyed yarn, and the colorway is called Log Driver's Waltz, and it is warm and cozy, and I've worn it a few times already after I finished blocking it. So I'm going to hold this close up to you so that you guys can see the color. This color is a very good gender neutral color. It is an all over kind of mocha brown with speckles in gold and like a rust and more dark brown, and it's a beautiful color. I can see this being a sweater for a man or a woman, any kind of neutral accessories. You can see I blocked out the lace a little bit too much in a few places, and I did not, I know I made a couple mistakes on the central spine, but it doesn't really bother me. And I have to say, when I'm watching other people's podcasts, when they say things like, oh, I noticed that I made a mistake a few rows back, but it doesn't really bother me, I'm so glad that I'm not the only one. I don't always care to go back to fix a little mistake if it doesn't affect my stitch count or overall finished garment, then it doesn't bother me at all. So again, the name of this shawl is the Jamie shawl. It is very textured, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of new stitches and techniques while I was knitting this shawl. And the yarn, I do have this yarn available in my shop right now. I have it on both my basic sock base and my classic worsted base, if you're interested. I'm going to redress my lady here. Okay, so that's it for finished objects. I'm going to show you some works in progress now, and the first one I want to show you is a hat that I have been knitting off and on using my hand-dyed yarn. This color is called Jazzercise, and it is a speckled pink, hot pink, neon yellow, and black yarn. And the hat pattern that I'm knitting is called the Realm Hat by Ashley McKeever. She is called Comfy Cozy Knits on Ravelry and Instagram and Facebook. She is also an indie dyer, so she's got the best of both worlds, guys. She has patterns and hand-dyed yarn, and I love both of them. This hat is great. It's a double brim, so it's folded over, and then you knit the brim together to create the body of the hat. And I'm getting close to maybe another inch before I start the decreases. And I love the double brim because in the winter here in Edmonton, it gets very cold, and this double brim keeps my ears much warmer than a regular thickness hat. And I do have this color jazzercise in the shop, I believe on basic sock and single ply worsted weight, which would be amazing for a hat. Single ply worsted weight is so squishy and soft, and it's you're gonna love working with it, and you're gonna love wearing it. So that is that color. The next work in progress I'll show you is a new cast on. I did finally cast on my dad's sweater, and I am doing the Chicane by Cookie A, and I'm using some yarn from Knit Picks. It is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash. I will show you the label. Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash, and the color is, what's it called again? I think it's called Camel Heather. Yes, that sounds right. And I have cast on the back panel of the sweater. So this sweater is worked in pieces, and then it is seamed together. So this is what I have so far. This was started, well, it was started a few times actually. I think I cast it on 4 times before I was happy with, well, the first couple times it was, I was using the long tail cast on, and the first time I had too long of a tail, and I really didn't want to waste yarn just in case. The second time I ran out of yarn because I didn't leave myself a long enough tail. The third time I had cast on smaller needles and started knitting the ribbing, then decided that I was going to go back to the original size needles that I had gotten gauge on the original size needles. That's 5mm. I did a swatch. I got stitch gauge this way, but row gauge was like an inch too long. Instead of getting the number of stitches in 4 inches, I got the number of stitches in 5 inches. So I don't know why my my row gauge is so much longer than what is called for in the pattern when I meet stitch gauge. And so, I mean, luckily most of the sweater is worked as knit until you have this long of a piece and then do this. But as one of my friends commented on a post I had done on Facebook for help for the sweater, she said, yes, you know, you knit a certain length and that's fine, but when you're doing sleeves, like sleeve decreases or increases, if you're doing them after so many rows, then you're going to have maybe your increases or decreases in the wrong place. So I'll just have to keep that in mind and hopefully not end up with long monkey sleeves on my dad's sweater. But I am really enjoying knitting this yarn, the Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash. It is soft but slightly rustic feeling. It has a nice fuzzy halo. I don't know if you can see the fuzziness of that. I haven't had any problems with splitting. I am knitting on my Haya Sharp interchangeable circular needles, and this is the 5mm. The ribbing was done in the 4.5mm. And so I have a lot more of just straight stockinette stitch to do, and so unless I actually finish the back panel, I probably won't show this again on the podcast until I do. So that is it for my dad's sweater, and I haven't started my sweater yet. I did start a gauge swatch, and I've met gauge, again, stitch gauge, but row gauge was a little bit closer. So I think I'm good to go with the size needles that the pattern calls for. I just don't have, they're actually the same size that I'm using on my dad's sweater, so I don't have a free set of needles to start my own sweater. So I'm probably going to try ordering some new tips, because I do have another cable I can use. I just don't have the right size tips that are free and available right now. So I'm going to be looking for those. So let's talk some more about the knit along, because this is also future knitting for me. I'm going to keep knitting on my dad's sweater until the start of the KAL, and then I'm going to be ready to cast on. And I think I have picked the yarn that I want to use. I went into my stash and I picked out a couple skeins that I think look really pretty together, and they are one of my favorite colors. And it's these two skeins. So I have this Sea Turtle Fibre Arts sock yarn. It's their Ridley sock base, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 420 yards per 115 grams. And this was given to me as a Christmas present from my friend Ashley, just this past Christmas. And I was planning on saving it for socks, but I just thought that these two skeins went so well together that I was going to put them in the Sunshowers Shawl. So it is very, very dark black and purple and blue. And I'm going to use that as the first color, because there isn't very much in the way of textural stitches in the first color. There's just some slip stitch rows. And since this is going to be a variegated color, I didn't want to use that in the highly textured part of the pattern down here. And another reason for me choosing these two colors is because I wanted to use some yarn that was highly contrasted, but still went together. Okay, that's falling off, so I'm going to take it off. So this next skein of yarn is a sparkly sock yarn from Poppy Yarn and Fibre. And I bought this skein for myself probably a couple years ago from the Alberta Yarn Project. And I knew that I had to bring it home because the color is amazing and it's sparkly. And this is their Argento sock. It's 438 yards per 100 grams. It's a 2-ply. 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina. And I'm going to open this up too. So it is very subtly variegated, but it's very also very random looking to me. So I think, and the color shifts are subtle. So I think that will work really well for the more textured part of the Sunshowers Shawl. And these are the two of them together. And I just think that they are so pretty, and I'm very eager to cast that on. So make sure you go and pick out some yarn so that you can join us for the knit along, because it's very exciting. And I have one prize lined up. When it gets here, I will show it off on the podcast. And if anybody else would care to donate a prize to our knit along, please get in touch with me. I would be more than happy to give away something that anybody has donated. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that is my future knitting. But is anybody else just wanting to like cast on all of the summer tops right now? I would love to. And I have a lot of sock yarn that I can use in summer tops. I have a big stash of lots of colors that go really well together that I could fade into mini projects, and that I may do that eventually. But for right now, I need to focus on my dad's sweater, then my sweater, and this shawl. And in between all of that, I have a couple pairs of socks I'm currently working on. So that'll keep me busy for a little while. But I'm going to go into a little bit of shop news right now. I don't have a big shop update planned this week. But what I did realize is that it's March, which means last year's October yarn of the month, the color of the month, is now available to you guys. So I actually have 4 skeins of October's Yarn of the Month Club from 2017, October 2017, and it is called Cozy Sweater, and it is this color here. it's just some really nice autumn tones with dark blue and kind of a peach and pumpkin and burgundy, and it's really, really pretty. I have 2 of those on basic sock, and I have 2 on sparkle sock. And so I will pop those into the shop on Wednesday. I don't know if I will do it right at 5 p.m. as I usually do, or if I'll just pop them in whenever I get a photo of them, but it'll be on Wednesday. One thing I wanted to mention is that I still have 2 sock sets left in the shop. I have this Kellogg's cereal bag. This is from Andrea's Handspuns, and the matching yarn that I dyed to go with it. And so this is in the shop. This is sold as a set, and there's only 1. And the other set still available is this one with tulips, and the yarn that goes with it is this one. So each one of these comes with a mini skein. Lock my face so it'll show you a little bit better. So there's 1 of each of those available in the shop right now, and they're one of a kind and great for sock knitting, or potentially a smaller shawl. So that is it for shop news. I did start dyeing the Fibre Fix subscription box on Friday. I have some more to finish up today. And then this week I may just take a look at what yarn I'm missing from stock and do a little bit of dyeing to replenish some of those colors. As always, if you notice a hole or gap in my stock of what's available in my online shop, you can send me a message and let me know. Say, hey, I would really like to see this color again, or if you would like to place a custom quantity order of any of my regular colorways, you can always do that. My minimum order is 2 skeins, and that's per colorway per base for custom orders. So I think that's it. I know it's a really short episode, but I don't have a whole heck of a lot to talk about because I just don't. And I really want to go and knit. And so that means I need to edit my podcast and go get some yarn soaking so I can finish dyeing club, and then I can knit. So I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you next week. Talk amongst yourselves, join the Ravelry group, let's get excited about the KAL, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.